Catherine had always lived in a world of comfortable routines. Every morning, as dawn broke over the lush skyline of Portland, she would lace up her sneakers and take a leisurely walk through the park, absorbing the gentle murmur of leaves and birds. Her days were punctuated by quiet moments in the old library downtown, where the scent of aged paper and whispered stories seemed to mirror her own secret musings. Yet, amid the reliable cadence of these days, a subtle emptiness had begun to creep in, a feeling that she was slowly fading into the background of her own life. One gray, rain soaked evening, while sheltering in a snug cafe in downtown Seattle, Catherine felt an unexpected chill that had nothing to do with the weather. As she sipped her hot tea, her mind wandered to the years spent fulfilling the quiet expectations of others. Even the warm ambience of the cafe, with its rustic decor and soft jazz playing in the background, couldn't shield her from the dawning realization. She was becoming invisible, not just in the eyes of those around her, but within herself. The familiar streets and comforting routines now seemed like a gilded cage, a safe existence slowly eroding her sense of identity. The crisp drizzle outside mirrored the uncertainty inside her, blurring the lines between who she was expected to be and who she longed to become. Memories of shared laughter and tender moments with Thomas, her devoted husband, fluttered in her mind like faded photographs. But instead of the comfort they once brought, those recollections now evoked a deep longing for something more, a vibrant, unapologetic existence where her inner world could bloom in full color. In that dim light, surrounded by the soft clatter of cups and hushed conversations, Catherine's thoughts raced. Questions she had long ignored began to surface with unyielding force. When was the last time she truly saw herself? Had she traded the thrill of self discovery for an illusion of stability? The answers, shrouded in the mist of self doubt, pressed in on her with a surprising urgency. Each moment in the cafe felt charged, as though the universe had conspired to offer her a glimpse of a life waiting just beyond the horizon of her habitual existence. As she stepped back into the rainy night, every drop of water on her coat seemed to echo the quiet awakening within her. The familiar neon signs and reflective puddles of Seattle took on a new significance, each one a silent testament to her desire for transformation. In that moment, Catherine understood that the path to reclaiming herself would be arduous, yet the first stirrings of a renewed identity were unmistakable, a spark of consciousness that promised to guide her toward a more authentic life. The following morning, as a gentle drizzle replaced the night's downpour, Catherine awoke with a restless energy, a subtle pulse of anticipation that had not been there before. While the previous evening's reflections still lingered in her mind, today was marked by a new twist in her routine. At breakfast, Thomas, ever the diligent professional with his neatly pressed shirt and measured demeanor, casually mentioned a work related event that he would be attending later that week. He explained that the venue was a modern art center located in the heart of downtown, a space renowned for its eclectic exhibitions and avant garde atmosphere. Thomas's invitation, however, wasn't simply about professional obligations. His tone held an unmistakable note of excitement and genuine hope that Catherine might join him. Though she had never been particularly fond of crowded events or the boisterous energy that often accompanied them, a small, curious voice inside her urged her to accept. Perhaps this was the moment to step outside her comfortable confines, to allow the unexpected to infiltrate the meticulously arranged tapestry of her days. That afternoon, as raindrops traced erratic patterns down the window pane, Catherine found herself contemplating the possibility of venturing into an unfamiliar world. Her mind wandered to the art center itself. Its stark, modern lines contrasted sharply with the quaint, storied charm of the library or the natural grace of the park. The thought of mingling among a diverse crowd, where conversations were fueled by passion and the daring spirit of creativity, sent a ripple of both excitement and trepidation through her. Determined to seize the opportunity for change, Catherine resolved to attend the event. In a brief exchange with Thomas, she expressed her willingness to be his companion, even though uncertainty fluttered beneath her words. Thomas's smile was a mixture of relief and quiet pride. Perhaps he too sensed that this evening might hold the key to unspoken transformations. As they discussed the details, the anticipation of the unknown imbued the conversation with a subtle urgency that neither had experienced in their long standing routine. Later that day, while strolling through a rain kissed street lined with neon reflections and glistening storefronts, Catherine paused to consider the symbolic nature of the invitation. It was as if the universe had orchestrated this moment, a juncture where the predictable and the unpredictable converged, urging her to rewrite the narrative of her own existence. The familiar urban rhythm of the city was now accompanied by an undercurrent of possibility, each step carrying her closer to a transformative encounter. Inside the quiet solitude of her apartment, Catherine carefully planned her attire for the event. She chose a dress that subtly blended elegance with an unconventional flair, a silent testament to her emerging desire to embrace a self that had long remained hidden. With a deep breath and a quiet promise to herself, she prepared for an evening that would undoubtedly challenge her perceptions of identity and belonging. In accepting Thomas's invitation, Catherine had unknowingly taken the first courageous step toward rediscovering the vibrant woman she was meant to be. In the heart of the bustling art center, amidst the interplay of light and shadow cast by avant-garde installations, Catherine felt both a nervous anticipation and a rare thrill. The exhibition hall was a labyrinth of vivid expressions, a celebration of creativity where every sculpture, painting, and installation invited contemplation and challenge. The atmosphere pulsed with energy, yet Catherine found herself retreating into the quieter corners of the gallery, searching for a semblance of familiar solace amidst the artistic chaos. It was there, in a secluded alcove away from the general hum of the crowd, that she first encountered Benjamin. He stood before a striking piece, a suspended, ethereal form of twisted metal and translucent fabric, his gaze intent and discerning. His eyes, deep and observant, seemed to hold countless untold stories, as if he was intimately connected to every hidden nuance of the art that surrounded him. In that moment, their eyes met, and an unspoken connection sparked between them. Benjamin approached Catherine with a calm assurance that contrasted sharply with the vibrant, unpredictable scene unfolding around them. Without preamble, he commented on the installation in front of them, remarking on the interplay of fragility and strength encapsulated in its design. His voice carried a soothing timbre that resonated deeply within her, stirring feelings that she had long suppressed. His words, precise yet poetic, struck a chord in Catherine's heart, evoking memories of moments when she had dared to question her own existence. As they moved deeper into conversation, the clamor of the exhibition seemed to fade into a distant murmur. Benjamin's insights were profound and unhurried, as if he were inviting Catherine to explore a hidden realm of self-awareness. He asked gently about the emotions that the art evoked in her, not as a casual inquiry, but as a sincere interest in the layers of her inner world. With every thoughtful remark, he peeled away the layers of her guarded routine, revealing the vibrant tapestry of dreams, fears, and aspirations that lay beneath. Their dialogue flowed effortlessly, punctuated by moments of reflective silence that were as eloquent as the spoken words. Benjamin's perspective was refreshingly candid. He spoke of life as a journey of constant transformation and of art as a mirror to the soul. His penetrating questions and reflective observations challenged Catherine to re examine the contours of her existence. In his presence, she sensed the possibility of a life beyond the confines of familiar expectations, a life rich with purpose and the kind of authenticity that could only be discovered when one dared to truly see oneself. In that transformative encounter, amidst the pulsating energy of modern art and the quiet intimacy of shared understanding, Catherine felt the first stirrings of a profound awakening, a realization that perhaps she was ready to step beyond the shadows of routine and embrace the untold beauty of her own being. After wandering through the pulsating corridors of the art center, Benjamin's quiet invitation lingered in Catherine's mind like a whispered secret. As the evening wore on and the art show dissolved into a haze of departing guests, he led her away from the busy gallery into a secluded side passage. Their destination was an intimate rooftop terrace atop a modest boutique hotel, a hidden oasis in the urban sprawl where the clamor of the exhibition gave way to the soft, contemplative murmur of the night. Stepping out onto the rooftop, Catherine was immediately struck by the contrast between the vibrant chaos inside and the serene expanse above. The city's neon glow shimmered in the distance, while the clear sky overhead unveiled a tapestry of stars that sparkled with quiet intensity. Here, away from the prying eyes and relentless noise of everyday life, the world felt stripped down to its most essential elements: the cool whisper of the wind, the distant hum of traffic, and the rhythmic beating of her own heart. They settled on a weathered bench near the edge, the cool night air carrying a hint of salt from the nearby bay. Benjamin's eyes, reflecting the starlight, held a sincere curiosity as he turned to her. With a gentle, almost tentative tone, he asked, "When was the last time you looked in the mirror and saw the woman you truly are?" His words, soft yet piercing, cut through the layers of Catherine's carefully constructed routine. For a moment, the night itself seemed to pause, as if urging her to confront the hidden truths of her own existence. Catherine felt an unexpected vulnerability in his inquiry. The question stirred long dormant emotions and memories, moments when she had dared to dream beyond the confines of routine, moments when her reflection had once mirrored a vibrant spirit unburdened by expectations. As she searched her inner landscape, she realized that years of devotion to familiar roles had silenced the part of her that yearned for self discovery. In that hushed rooftop sanctuary, every star overhead became a beacon of possibility. Every gentle breeze, a reminder that change was not only possible but necessary. Benjamin's presence was both calming and invigorating. He listened intently as she began to articulate feelings she had long kept hidden: fears of insignificance, the burden of unspoken desires, and the quiet rebellion against a life lived for others. His empathetic nods and thoughtful pauses allowed her words to flow freely, like a long forgotten melody finally allowed to play once more. There, under the watchful gaze of the night sky, their conversation transcended the mere exchange of words. It evolved into an intimate journey, a shared exploration of self, where each revelation was met with understanding and gentle encouragement. In that transformative hour, the rooftop became a sacred space of renewal. The raw honesty of their dialogue ignited within Catherine a spark of hope, a promise that she could reclaim the vibrant identity she had long surrendered. The silent language of the stars and the tender cadence of Benjamin's voice wove together into a tapestry of newfound possibility, urging her to step boldly into a future where she was seen, heard, and cherished for who she truly was. In the quiet hours after her rooftop conversation with Benjamin, Catherine found herself enveloped in a profound sense of invisibility. That night, as she drove through the narrow, dimly lit streets of San Francisco, the city's scattered lights blurred into a cascade of reflections on the rain washed pavement. Every passing street lamp and neon sign reminded her of the many evenings spent unnoticed, each one echoing the silent truth that she had long been living on the fringes of her own existence. Her mind wandered back to years when she had meticulously tended to the home, cared for Thomas, and dutifully met the expectations of those around her. It was as if, in the relentless pursuit of keeping everything in perfect order, she had unwittingly erased the vibrant details of her own identity. The memories were bittersweet, moments filled with quiet sacrifices and unnoticed achievements. In the mosaic of her past, every small act of devotion had gradually merged into a single, indistinct blur, leaving her feeling like a mere shadow in a life that should have been hers. In the solitude of her car, Catherine recalled the silent dinners and routine conversations that, despite their outward normalcy, left her with an emptiness that was difficult to articulate. There were nights when she had sat alone, looking into the mirror, only to see the reflection of someone who had lost touch with her inner light. The realization that she had been living for others, rather than nurturing her own dreams, struck her with a sharp clarity. The cumulative weight of years spent bending to the expectations of a world that never truly saw her now pressed heavily on her heart. As the cityscape slipped by, memories of overlooked desires surfaced: the art classes she had once imagined taking, the spontaneous adventures that were forever postponed, and the dreams that had quietly withered away under the constant barrage of obligations. The sound of the rain tapping against the windshield became a rhythmic reminder of the tears she had long suppressed. Each drop seemed to whisper a secret that she was more than the sum of her responsibilities, more than the silent partner in someone else's narrative. In that introspective solitude, Catherine confronted the reality that she had been invisible, not because she lacked beauty or strength, but because she had allowed her own needs and aspirations to be smothered by routine and duty. The awareness was both painful and liberating. She realized that to reclaim her identity, she must first acknowledge the void left by years of self neglect. This moment of reckoning was the precursor to a deeper, more courageous journey. A journey that would eventually lead her to recognize her worth and to step out of the shadows, even if it meant facing the uncertainty of being truly seen. Later that night, as shadows deepened and sleep became a distant promise, Catherine found herself restless in the solitude of her darkened living room. The events of the evening, the candid rooftop conversation, the painful reckoning of her own invisibility, swirled relentlessly in her thoughts. Unable to still the inner turmoil, she reached for her phone with trembling fingers. In that quiet, solitary moment, an unyielding urge propelled her to break free from the cocoon of her habitual silence. After a few long, uncertain seconds of hesitation, she dialed Benjamin's number. The act was not an escape from loneliness, but a courageous invitation to explore the very depths of her newly awakened self. Each ring in the stillness of the night echoed like a heartbeat, each pause stretching her fragile hope and quiet longing. Finally, Benjamin answered, his voice soft and unexpectedly reassuring in the quiet darkness. His tone carried a gentle curiosity that made Catherine feel seen, as if her inner confession was already understood before the words were spoken. Benjamin, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. I couldn't sleep. I keep thinking about what you said tonight, about seeing myself, truly seeing who I am. The vulnerability in her voice was raw, exposed by the unguarded solitude of the night. Benjamin listened with empathetic silence, his words measured and soothing. Catherine, he replied, sometimes when the night is at its darkest, that's when our inner light seeks us most fiercely. Let's meet tomorrow morning. Just us, a quiet space, and a chance to explore those thoughts further. His suggestion was simple, yet it carried the weight of unspoken promise. In that moment, Catherine felt a shift, a small, powerful turning of the page that signified the start of something monumental. As she ended the call, the lingering notes of Benjamin's calm reassurance echoed in her heart. The silence that had once enveloped her now hummed with a fragile melody of hope and determination. She sensed that this call was not merely a spontaneous decision, but a deliberate step toward rediscovering her essence, a spark that might illuminate the path out of her self-imposed obscurity. The phone, now resting quietly on the table, seemed to pulse with the possibility of a new beginning. Outside, the city slept under a velvet blanket of night, unaware of the internal revolution taking place in Catherine's heart. Every tick of the clock resonated with the promise of tomorrow, a day that would carry the promise of a genuine encounter, one where the quiet pursuit of self could finally be nurtured. With that call, the boundaries between who she had been and who she could become began to blur. In the silence of the night, Catherine embraced the stirring of her spirit, ready to step forward into the uncertain dawn, driven by a newfound determination to seek the truth of her own existence. The next morning dawned with a subtle clarity, as if the night's revelations had distilled into the crisp light of a new day. Catherine woke with an unaccustomed eagerness, her heart still resonating with the quiet courage from the previous night's call. She had arranged to meet Benjamin in a modest cafe nestled along the Oakland waterfront, a place where the bracing air mingled with the aroma of freshly baked pastries and strong dark coffee. As she stepped into the cafe, the soft clatter of cups and murmured conversations enveloped her, grounding her in the tangible present. The establishment, with its warm wood tones and an ever-present scent of cinnamon and sea salt, seemed to exude a comforting honesty. Catherine found a quiet table by the window, its view opening onto the bustling harbor where the gentle sway of boats mirrored the oscillation of her inner thoughts. Benjamin arrived a few minutes later. His presence was as steady as the tide outside, and his gaze held an earnest intensity that conveyed understanding without judgment. He greeted her with a sincere smile that was both disarming and reassuring. Settling into their seats, the pair ordered a round of robust Americanos, each sip a reminder of the vivid reality that awaited them beyond their introspective journeys. Over the hum of the early morning, Benjamin began to share reflections that were intimate yet unforced. Catherine, he said quietly, life isn't only about the moments we meticulously plan. Sometimes the raw truth of our existence reveals itself in the unpredictability of now. His voice, gentle yet compelling, broke through the silence like a steady beacon. In that moment, the cafe transformed into a sanctuary where philosophical musings intertwined with the everyday, a place where the abstract became tangible. Catherine listened intently, absorbing each word as if it were a lifeline cast into the sea of her dormant dreams. As Benjamin recounted his own struggles with conformity and the societal pressures that had once threatened to dim his spirit, she felt an overwhelming kinship. His narrative was not merely a recount of personal triumphs or setbacks, but rather a profound exploration of what it meant to confront reality head on, to see oneself beyond the facade crafted by external expectations. The conversation moved fluidly from reflections on art and authenticity to practical musings about embracing the uncertainties of life. Benjamin pointed out that every choice, a spontaneous weekend trip, a late night conversation, even a moment of vulnerability, was a step toward reclaiming one's identity. He emphasized that while the comfort of routine was enticing, it often came at the cost of true self discovery. His insights resonated deeply within Catherine, igniting a subtle but undeniable conviction that it was time to stop living in the echoes of others' expectations and start sculpting her own narrative. In the gentle interplay of light streaming through the cafe window and the soft murmur of the city waking up, reality felt unvarnished and raw. There were no grand declarations, only the simple truth of the moment, a shared acknowledgement that life was both fragile and immensely precious. As their conversation unfolded, Catherine realized that meeting reality meant accepting its imperfections and its beauty. It was a call to action, a quiet promise that every day could be transformed into a canvas for genuine self expression. Returning from the early morning meeting with Benjamin, Catherine felt the weight of her newfound awareness settle like a mantle around her shoulders. The drive back home was punctuated by the rhythm of the city waking up, a steady reminder that life, with all its imperfections, demanded honesty. Her thoughts churned with memories of countless days spent in silent acquiescence, each one a silent sacrifice to expectations that no longer served her. Now, every street sign and familiar corner seemed to echo the urgent need to reclaim her true self. At home, the quiet living room bore witness to years of shared routines and unspoken compromises. The soft hum of the refrigerator, the gentle ticking of the clock, each sound underscored the daily monotony that had rendered her invisible. Tonight, however, everything felt charged with possibility. Catherine knew that the time had come to bridge the gulf between the person she had become and the vibrant, long forgotten soul yearning to be seen. In the deep silence of that space, she began rehearsing the words that had been fermenting in her heart, words that carried the risk of pain but promised liberation. As twilight edged into night, Thomas returned from his long day at work. The familiar sight of him in the doorway, the way his presence filled the room, stirred conflicting emotions within her. She met his expectant gaze, one that had always held the warmth of routine, but now seemed to demand an explanation for her inner restlessness. Sitting together at the modest dining table, under the soft glow of a solitary lamp, Catherine took a deep breath, a breath that marked the threshold of transformation. Thomas, she began quietly, her voice trembling with both fear and determination. I've spent so many years living the life we built together, a life that has been safe, predictable, and full of routine. But somewhere along the way, I lost sight of who I truly am. I feel like I've become a shadow of the woman I once dreamed of being. Her eyes shone with unshed tears as she continued, I've tried to be everything for you, for us, but I've forgotten to be for myself. Thomas's face registered a mixture of shock and sorrow. The air grew heavy with the significance of the confession. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence was filled with the raw gravity of unspoken truths. Finally, Thomas leaned forward, his expression softening with an empathy that belied his own inner turmoil. Catherine, he murmured, I never realized how deeply you were hurting. I always thought our life was enough, that we were content. But I see now that you're pleading for something more, something you deserve. Her voice steadied as she pressed on. I need to rediscover the woman inside me, the one who dreams, who feels, who lives boldly. I'm not saying this to cast blame or to diminish what we share. I'm saying it because I need to be seen by myself and then by you, as someone who is real, unafraid, and beautifully flawed. A trembling pause followed. Then, as if guided by an inner resolve, she reached across the table. Her hand met his, and in that quiet, fraught moment, the simple touch carried the promise of both heartbreak and healing. Thomas's eyes glistened with unshed tears as he squeezed her hand. The tension in the room slowly gave way to a bittersweet intimacy, a dialogue unspoken but deeply understood. In that vulnerable confession, Catherine had not only revealed the depths of her own despair, but also ignited the first flicker of hope that change was possible. The night, heavy with the honest truth of their shared life, bore witness to a turning point where the old and the new converged. And as the conversation lingered in the charged silence between them, both knew that the journey ahead, while uncertain, was now imbued with the promise of rediscovery and renewal. In the days that followed her heartfelt confession, Catherine found herself in a state of profound introspection and cautious hope. The familiar contours of her daily life had begun to blur, replaced by the vivid sketches of a new blueprint, one meticulously drafted by her own hand. Sitting at her desk one quiet evening, she spread out a collection of notebooks, each page a canvas for her unspoken dreams and desires. It was here that the first tangible form of her transformation took shape, a carefully curated plan for change and self-discovery. Every stroke of her pen was deliberate, marking the transition from a life lived in the shadows of routine to one illuminated by possibility. Catherine listed the small, yet significant steps she would undertake, enrolling in a series of art courses to reconnect with her creative spirit, scheduling regular meetings with old friends who had always admired her individuality, and even planning solo trips to cities she had only ever admired from afar. Each entry on her list was imbued with a promise to reclaim the self that had long been muted by the expectations of others. The plan was not merely a set of actions, but a declaration of intent. It outlined moments of vulnerability and joy alike, like the idea of attending a weekly poetry night at a local cafe where the cadence of spoken words might coax her dormant emotions into bloom, or the possibility of joining a meditation group to cultivate a deeper understanding of her inner world. Catherine's newly crafted roadmap also emphasized the importance of self reflection. Daily journaling sessions where she could capture fleeting thoughts, celebrate small victories, and confront lingering fears. These written commitments served as both reminders and rewards, a tangible record of her journey toward self actualization. As she read over her plan, Catherine could almost feel the weight of her former life lifting, replaced by an invigorating sense of purpose. The steps were both grand and intimate, a balance that spoke to the complexity of her inner transformation. With every line, the plan wove together practical actions and soulful aspirations, ensuring that no aspect of her being was left unattended. It was a holistic approach, addressing the creative, emotional, and even spiritual dimensions of her identity. While the road ahead promised challenges, the blueprint was laced with quiet determination and hope. Catherine understood that the journey would be marked by both triumphs and setbacks, moments of radiant clarity and periods of lingering doubt. Yet, with each carefully outlined goal, she felt empowered to face the uncertainties ahead. The very act of writing down her intentions had stirred a latent courage, transforming abstract desires into concrete steps forward. In the soft glow of that evening, as she closed her notebook, Catherine embraced the transformative power of self-determination. Her plan was more than a roadmap. It was a silent vow to honor every facet of her soul. In that intimate space of creation, the boundaries of her past began to dissolve, making way for a future defined by authenticity, creativity, and the unyielding pursuit of the self she had always been meant to be. In the wake of her heartfelt confessions and meticulously drafted blueprint for change, Catherine awoke to a world that seemed both familiar and startlingly new. The past few weeks had woven themselves into an intricate tapestry of revelations and subtle triumphs, each day marked by small yet significant acts of defiance against a life once lived in shadows. Now, as the gentle rays of dawn filtered through her window, she felt an undeniable surge of vitality, a promise that the metamorphosis of her soul was well underway. Every morning, Catherine greeted the day with an intentionality that had long eluded her. The once meandering routines of yesteryears were replaced by purposeful rituals, a quiet meditation that centered her thoughts, followed by a deliberate stroll through the vibrant streets of her neighborhood. With each step, the cityscape transformed from a backdrop of habitual monotony into a living canvas of possibility. The urban sounds, the distant hum of traffic, the soft chatter of passersby, even the rhythmic patter of rain became a symphony that echoed her inner revival. Her newfound consciousness was most evident in the ways she embraced creativity. No longer content to observe life from the sidelines, Catherine enrolled in painting classes at a local studio. There, amid splashes of color and bold strokes on blank canvases, she discovered the freedom of self expression. The act of creation, unburdened by external validation, became her sanctuary, a private celebration of the woman who had long been confined by expectations. Each brushstroke was a testament to her reclaiming a long forgotten identity, a vivid narrative unfolding in hues of passion and resilience. Social engagements, once dreaded for their suffocating predictability, now shimmered with promise. Catherine reconnected with old friends, invited neighbors for impromptu dinners, and even ventured to quirky gatherings where conversation flowed as freely as the wine. In these moments, she realized that authenticity was contagious. Each genuine smile and heartfelt laugh reinforced the belief that living true to oneself was both liberating and profoundly transformative. Even her relationship with Thomas underwent an evolution. Their home, once a silent stage for unspoken grievances, gradually filled with honest dialogues and mutual discoveries. While the process was not devoid of tension or pain, it was also imbued with a tender understanding. Thomas, initially startled by the depth of her self exploration, began to recognize the radiance of the woman he once thought he knew so well. Together, they navigated the delicate balance between shared history and individual growth, each conversation a bridge toward a more meaningful connection. Catherine's journey was punctuated by moments of reflection and gratitude. On quiet evenings, as she journaled by the soft glow of a desk lamp, she would write of the day's victories and setbacks, the gentle reminder that every step, however tentative, was a move toward a life replete with authenticity and purpose. There was a newfound joy in acknowledging her own existence, in savoring the intricate interplay of hope and uncertainty that defined her days. In this evolving chapter, the spark of self awareness burned brightly, illuminating paths once obscured by fear and complacency. Catherine was no longer a mere participant in a life designed by others. She had become the architect of her own destiny, a woman who dared to embrace every nuance of her soul, every fragile dream, and every bold aspiration. The journey was far from over, yet in each breath and every moment of conscious living, she found herself reborn into a life that was, at last, truly her own.